I wake up with the sun seeping through the east window of my bedroom. I walk to school and I'm literally surrounded by green on blue. My school is set on rolling hills, so ridiculously picturesque that you'd expect to see Julie Andrews here prancing around in a frock. I can see the sea from my maths class. The privilege of living in New Zealand. Right? Rewind 5 years. We're back in Cowston. 2-bedroom houses with exotic overgrown gardens, teenage boys staining the sidewalk with battered bleeding noses, noise control on speed dial every weekend. Although just a 40-minute drive away from each other, these two suburbs in comparison seem like two completely different worlds, two alien planets that are unaware of each other's existence. It was funny when I moved here at first, people would raise your eyebrows at this little Asian girl walking around and talking like this, bro. And the first thing I learned was, no, it's not pronounced Pakaranga, it's Pakaranga. But beneath the politically incorrect laughter and bro-town jokes, I think that there's something slightly sinister about the fact that where we live can affect the very way that we think. Our country has this absolutely remarkable image and reputation. We're a nation of limitless opportunities, infinite freedom, and are leading the rest of the world in setting a first-class display of social equality. But then, just what happens when you can't afford to buy a $600,000 house to ensure that your child can go to a good school? Is it a mere coincidence that neighborhoods of different living standards, racial majorities, and crime rates are defined by what school zone they're in? It may sound ridiculous and implausible, but does the government offer any other options for aspiring students who can't afford to live in Remuera? Sure, they call it, find yourself 15 grand a year and go to St. Cuthbert's. There is such blatant subjection, such a rift in our society that we do not even recognize. We're expected to love thy neighbor, but not if thy neighbor lives beyond a 3-kilometer radius from thyself. We preach equality just as the rest of the world does. But when you witness from the security and comfort of your cozy living room, the sight of gaunt beggars sleeping beside Chinese skyscrapers, when Slumdog Millionaire grosses billions worldwide and wins 8 Oscars, while its actors are still dwelling in Indian slums, when $800 billion is conjured up within a matter of days and handed on a silver platter to American CEOs, while 4% of that would relieve world hunger for an entire year, we have to ask ourselves, do the political claims to deliver hope, equality, and liberty apply only to those within a certain border? We're becoming so much more tolerant and accepting. But at the same time, we're continually drifting apart with technology and hectic jobs compartmentalizing us into our own little biospheres. When you live in a wealthy area, when we're occupied with our jobs and schoolwork, we have no idea of just how separate of a mentality exists in the rest of New Zealand. When you live in a first world country, we are wholly ignorant of the suffering and strife elsewhere. For example, there's a certain phrase that I'm sure that every single person in this room has heard, laughed at, maybe even uttered in return. Hey, is there anyone here from India? Go back to where you came from. Anyone from Samoa, Korea? Go back to your country. Go back to your country. To me, there's 6 simple, apparently meaningless syllables embody all the hatred, spite, and intolerance that still somehow manages to writhe its way into our everyday lives. It has been carelessly flung at my family and friends countless times, by children, by teenagers, by adults, by neighbors. This essentially is a seesaw effect. People armed with vicious words are elevated by debasing and subordinating others. like a seesaw. It is childish, degrading, humiliating, hurtful. I've lived in New Zealand since I was 4, There's no other country for me to go back to. There's no other home just sitting there and waiting for us across the world. So if I can't call myself a New Zealander, then just who can? The young Americans who live to the left of me? The Taiwanese family on my right? Is there a specific criteria that we have to fulfill in order to be accepted? When I was asked to consider the question, who are your neighbours? I was baffled. And I realized that although I've been surrounded by the same people for 5 years, I don't even know their names. But when I hear these stories of neighbours baking for each other and mowing each other's lawns, I realize that neighbourhoods are not defined by their social status and crime rates, but by the compassion of its inhabitants. That it's not sea views and school zones that make a house desirable, but the wonderful people that surround it. We need to stop perceiving the world through our eyes alone. The next time you meet your neighbour, see not the shape of their eyes, but the joy and sadness that lies within it. See not the colour of their skin, but the wrinkles and furrows that have accumulated after a lifetime of joy and worry. See not their tendency to steal KFC vouchers from your mailbox. See and embrace the millennia-old culture, the family traditions, the intricate histories that they are remnants of. The problem is that some families perceive their neighbours as burdens, as intruders who we choose to shut out and isolate with tall fences and closed curtains. The problem is that first world countries refuse to acknowledge the fact that we're surrounded by neighbours at all. All it takes, it just starts with a smile, a wave, a sup bro. And only then will we realize that we are not surrounded by strangers. We're surrounded by humans, by sympathy, by sadness, by friends who are simply just waiting to be discovered. Thank you.